Hello and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time we went on a date with Lilly, and I think she got the bad news about her aunt, but I don't know. I walked down the hall of the girls' dormitory, my school bag in hand. A doll lies inside, carefully placed on top of a small box. I've been carrying the box in there for a while now, still not sure what to do with it. The whole situation, come to think of it, is bizarre. Oh yeah, we got a little music box, but I thought we got that for Lilly, but I guess we didn't. Well, I've known of Hanako's upcoming birthday party for a while now. I had no idea of exactly what the celebrations would be until I found a single note left in the abandoned tea room earlier today. I hold it up and read it again, double-checking the instructions. The plain black handwriting is fairly legible despite Lily's blindness, clearly thanks to considerable effort and care. She wrote it? How? That's amazing. Hisao, we'll be holding a party in my place. Please come at 6 o'clock to room 225 in the girls' dormitory. Sorry for notifying you this way, but I have class representative duties. Lily Sato. Not reassured, I continue walking down the hallway until I reach Lily's dormitory room. I hesitate for a second, but eventually give 3 sharp taps on the door. Tap, tap, tap. A brief and muffled exchange of words can be heard from the other side. Listening closer, I can just pick out Hanako and Lily's voices. As they finish, Lily calls out, "Might that be Hisao?" "Yep, I got the note you left for me." "You can come in. The door is unlocked." Glad that I managed to get the right room, I press down on the handle and let myself in. As the door swings open, my greeting to them is stolen from my mouth. "Here we are again, with the single cup." Lily sits at a low table in the center of the room in her pajamas, while the other side sits Hanako in a nightgown. Being dressed in only my normal school clothes, I feel quite out of place. I steal a quick glance at the lovely sight of the two, my eyes tearing themselves from Lily's long, thin, pale legs only with a measure of reluctance. Hi, I think I brought everything that was needed? She smiles and nods. I wonder if she's even aware of the pleasant sight she makes. The thin, dark blue silk of her pajamas really suits her, accentuating both her eyes and her curves. Calm down, Hisao. Jeez. The look of her last night, that tentative and almost shy demeanor, seems all but replaced by her coy nature. It's nice to see her confidence return, though I can't help casting my mind back to how she looked back then. And Hanako's alright too. I look to Hanako, who nervously sits opposite her in her gown. It isn't a surprise that she'd wear something so conservative, though it definitely looks cute. Hi Hanako, happy birthday. Thank you. She's unusually skittish, despite the fact that she's warmed up to me considerably over the weeks we've come to know each other. This is a pretty unusual situation, I guess. Feel free to take a seat, Hisao. I'll just pour you 2 some tea. Sure thing. Lily takes the steaming red teapot from the side of the table and gently pours its contents into our teacups, as I take a seat beside them, setting my bag against the nearby wall. With my senses returned and hormones somewhat calmer, yeah, calm down, Hisao. They're just the legs. I realize that this is the first time I've ever been in Lily's room. The first thing I notice is the ambient smell, just slightly different from that in mine. Probably faint perfume or nail polish. It could be anything of a girl's, really. It smells like female in here. That's when my hormones are all in a tizzy. Got the pheromones. Another is the plain nature of the room, visually. Beige walls, a smart yet unadorned cabinet. The lack of posters or wall hangings. It's distinctly utilitarian, something I should have anticipated given her blindness. The only thing that really seems out of the ordinary is several piles of books sitting on the floor, each reading from roughly knee height to waist height, Some of them have printed titles, others are entirely blank except for dots of braille. The fact that one with printed titles are uniformly in English is interesting, though not completely unexpected. She did mention her parents impressing the language upon her and Akira after all. Your room looks nice, Lily. I hear a call of thanks from beside my shoulder. Looking back to Hanako, her gaze is fixed on her lap and her hands are nervously clutching her gown. It's now that I notice why. With these clothes on, the extent of her scarring is far more visible, reaching down her neck and out to cover her right shoulder. Considering this is a party for her, she doesn't really look like she's enjoying the experience now that I'm here. So, how old are you turning? 18? Her look of surprise, not at all helped by her total lack of skill at hiding her feelings, shows that she was trying to mentally tune me out. This is really quite awkward. Yes. On the plus side, there's only 2 more years till you can drink, so who's older, you or Lily? Nunya. Lily. She had her birthday in February? What about yours? Earlier this year, so it's already passed. Unstated is that it passed while I was stuck in the hospital. That was a particularly low point of the experience. Conversation with her dries up as quickly as expected. It isn't long before Lily's finished preparing our drinks, setting down the 3 teacups in front of us. I pick mine up, immediately noticing a much stronger aroma and taste than the tea we've been having. Huh, it tastes different than the tea we have in school. It's a different variety, rather than the kind we've been having there. You've never tasted orange Jaipur before? I've never even seen the word. Not that I can remember. I usually drink coffee after all, like when we were in town. This is nice though. As we settle down and sip, Hanako seems to become more relaxed, or at least a bit less tense about my presence. We all finish our cups at about the same time, with Hanako failing rather badly at hiding her anticipation for the cake that's sitting to the side, begging to be eaten. Come to think of it, I'm feeling very eager myself. First things first though. Lily? Yes, now is good. Each of us knowing exactly what the other means, I lean sideways and dig around in my bag for the doll I bought Hanako, as Lily gets up and retrieves her gift. Hiding our gifts in our hands, we present them both at the table at the same time. Happy birthday! Hanako silently sits looking at them for seconds on end, out of sheer surprise. My little wooden doll, replete with Victorian-era dress and little hat, lies next to a light brown and fluffy stuffed bear from Lily. She clutches at her gown as she moves to speak, not taking her eyes off the modest presents. Thank you, Lily, and Esau. Aw, Huggies! Huggies again! Huggies the sequel! Her voice begins to crack as Lily reaches forward, wrapping her in a soft embrace. The sight of Hanako holding Lily so tightly is heartwarming, so much so that I couldn't wipe the smile off my face even if I wanted to. As Lily gently rests her face on Hanako's head, she speaks so quietly and softly that I can barely hear. Happy birthday, Hanako. Happy birthday. Hanako gives a small nod, holding on to Lily for a time before breaking off and wiping an eye. I guess that for Hanako, simply having someone, anyone to be there and love her would be special. The fact that Lily and I can now share that role for her is something I think I will always be grateful for. Oh, it's different. They're different little things in her little arms. Hanako gently takes the doll and teddy bear, holding them both to her chest as she warmly smiles. For a long time, all 3 of us simply sit in happy silence. The quiet is not broken until Lily's soft voice beckons. Shall we have at the cake then? Her proposal is met with 2 looks of unhidden anticipation. No argument from me. Okay. Phew, that was good. I contentedly sit back, both Lily and Hanako looking just as satisfied with the food as I. It took some effort, but we managed to finish off the cake in one go. I don't think I could fit any more in. I think next time I'll buy a smaller cake. Hanako and I give a chuckle, but I can't help noticing that come this time next year, we'll have graduated from Yamaku. That fact is somewhat depressing since I finally feel as if my life is starting to get back into some kind of order. Idly looking around Lily's neat and orderly room, her books catch my eye once again. This may be a little impetuous, but my curiosity gets the better of me. Besides, I don't think she'll mind in any case. Hey Lily, do you mind if I take a look at one of your books? You're quite welcome to, Hisao. That said, if you can overcome 2 language barriers, I will be quite impressed. 2? Braille and... oh, right, English. She gives a nod. I knew you were studying English, but I'm still amazed that you're this proficient at it. One could say it's a perfect way to avoid people borrowing my collection. She says it in jest, but I am a little disappointed. Having all these books around me with no way of reading them feels like one big tease. That's foreshadowing. Hanako giggles quietly as I reach over the closest pile, plucking the topmost book with only a curious, cursory glance. Death on the Nile, in large letters on the cover, is the only printed text to be seen. Ah, yes. The dots. I sit down for a while with the book open on my lap as Lily and Hanako talk. Try as I might to feel out the dots of braille printed on each page, they seem to blend into one another and become indistinct. I thought this to be a lot easier than it actually is. With some practice, though, I could see someone with a better sense of touch than mine managing to read at a pretty fast pace. Noticing a silence that had probably begun earlier, I look up from the dotted pages to see Lily smiling as Hanako sips another cup of tea. Is something wrong? Quite the opposite. Your curiosity's quite endearing. I'm inordinately pleased, or inordinately, by the praise, though I can feel my cheeks heating up a little. Thanks, but I don't know how else I could act. To be honest, I wasn't altogether sure of how you saw us, since you were a new transfer student from another school. If you'd pitied us, I would have been quite offended. There's a certain edge to Lily's voice, one that I'd quite possibly place as pride. Glancing over to Hanako, she seems even more subdued than usual, looking toward Lily rather than me. I wouldn't worry about that. Considering the position I found myself in, I'm perhaps the last person that should be dispensing pity on others. My parents' first interactions with me after my heart attack, I wouldn't want anyone to see that kind of face. I catch myself from going any further, but not soon enough. Both of the girls seem to be put off, Lily especially. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone that far. An awkward silence reigns for a few beats, thankfully ended as Lily's head perks up in a gesture I've come to easily recognize. Hear something? The door. Everyone looks towards it, trusting in Lily's senses. True enough, the door handle shudders and turns, a flash of yellow and black slipping through. There she is! Akira Sato in the house! Happy birthday, Hanako! Thank you. Akira takes a seat at the table as she plops her tall bag beside her. She has her trademark boisterous air about her, making no small deal of her entrance. Hanako clutches her gown to steady herself, but doesn't appear too shaken after she settles down. I guess she must have met Akira before. Not a huge surprise, given how close Akira and Lily are. Akira doesn't seem to be the least bit put off by Hanako's scarring, despite its prominence, but she also doesn't pull any punches in how she acts despite Hanako's shy nature. I thought you said that you'd have to work, Akira. Did you manage to get off for a while? Kinda. Feel bad about ditching the guys doing overtime, so I gotta get back soon. But I felt bad about not coming to your cute little Hanako's birthday too. So for now, I'm here. She grins widely at Hanako, who flowers into a full blush as she pins her eyes downward toward her lap. Her mouth seems to widen and retract over and over, as if she was trying to suppress a smile out of embarrassment. It's a little strange how her reaction seems to be more immediate and forceful than when she's embarrassed by the way she looks. All she manages to give in return is a tiny nod, failing to hide her appreciation to any great extent. Not that many people give her positive attention, I suppose. It makes me respect how well Akira can handle her. Making her so happy, I compare to what little I can do. Now then, before I go. She reaches into the bag beside her and grandly displays its contents. Ooh, consistency. Out come 2 large glass bottles, both with long French names on the labels. Hanako's expression is an odd mix of surprise and curiosity, and I suspect mine's no different. Lilly, not seeing the proceedings, is oblivious to what's going on. Akira, this isn't... What is it? Wine, 1 red, 1 white. Akira, that's... Relax, relax. It's not like Shizune's here to scold you. Lilly has a point. That's not exactly allowed on campus. Or anywhere, really. We're still short of legal drinking age, remember? Rich words for someone practically drooling as he examines the bottle. She got me there. I am genuinely interested in trying some, even just a little. While Hanako may not be handling one herself, her look does tell me that she's far from opposed to the notion as well. Lilly rubs her forehead, giving up the fight as she knows Akira would win due to simply not caring enough about those funny rules and regulations. Just don't breathe a word of this to anyone in the school, please. I beg of you. I'm not stupid, don't worry. That said, I gotta get back to work pretty soon. So soon? But you only just arrived. Sorry, Lilly. Good to see you two again, though. And you, Hisao. See you later, then. Goodbye, Akira. She levers herself up with a grunt and waltzes out of the room, leaving us alone with the 2 items on the table. Interesting, to say the least. Lilly gives a nervous giggle at her sister's antics as Hanako takes a wine bottle. So... What do you think, Lilly? She rests her elbow on the table and pinches the bridge of her nose, thinking things through. She really doesn't seem to be able to keep up with her sister. Well, it's already here. We might as well have some. No sooner does she say it than I take a quick glance around the room for glasses. A small groan above me reminds me that Lilly retired to rest on her bed for a few minutes ago. Almost completely drained of energy, I managed to stand up and drag myself to the side of the bed, sitting down and leaning my back against it. Good God. Lilly's groan sounds lifeless. Too much to drink? My head hurts. Yeah, too much to drink. I rest my head back and idly stare at the ceiling. What an unmitigated disaster. Like proper idiots, we all drank the night away with 1 glass after another. Hanako simply fell to the side asleep, and it's a miracle I don't feel as ill as Lilly. Hey, Hisao. I'm sorry about today. I didn't think this would happen. It's fine, Lilly. To tell the truth, I had a lot of fun today. Really? I think Hanako did too. No, she certainly did. There's a short silence before another groan resounds from the supine Lilly. You okay? As you said, I just drank too much. What's the time? The time? It's... I quickly look at my wristwatch, its numerals barely legible in the gloom. About midnight. Curfew's in effect then. Yeah, just as much. Well, I'll have to sleep here for tonight. As soon as I say it, I hear the sheets moving as Lilly starts to sit up. Hanako. No. Go back to sleep. Don't try to get up. Hisao, I have to. You're in worse shape than me by any stretch. Get some rest. But what about... I'll grab some spare blankets and put them over her, don't worry. As I give a deep yawn and stand to retrieve them, I hear her lie back down with a soft thud. Thank you, Hisao. No problem, it's the least I can do. You look outright wasted. Sloshed. Schwacked. I'm not wasted, just a little bit tired. She starts pouting, a slight slur beginning to distort her words as the alcohol takes hold of her again. I grab a couple of blankets rolled up at the end of her bed. Quietly walking over to Hanako, I carefully lay the blankets over her peacefully sleeping figure, making sure not to wake her up. The thick smell of alcohol coming off her breath makes me doubt she'd wake up no matter what I did, though. I stand and take one last measure of the room. 2 girls, both very drunk, and 1 guy sleeping overnight with them in the female student's dorm. What a scandal that'd be if it broke out. So scandalous. Sleeping. Co-ed. As I move to sit back down at the side of the bed, I steal one last glance at Lilly. Do we get a special image? Her sprawling, disheveled figure lies resting peacefully, slightly turned to the side. I crouch down to get a better look, like a creepo. Her white skin blends in with the white pillow of the bed, a look of slumber-born peacefulness on her face. Usually she seems so confident and forward, always there and caring for Hanako now. Now, though, she seems painfully delicate. I think back to Hanako's presence. I thought it'd be a nice occasion for her, but I'd hardly expected it to be so moving. One birthday after another, year after year. Just she and Lilly all alone. I guess it wasn't just the presents she liked. It was the presence of her friends. Resigning myself to an uncomfortable sleep, I sit down at the side of the bed once again and rest my tired arms beside me. Hey, Hisao? Lily's voice is so quiet I can barely hear it. She must be on the verge of sleep. Yeah? Thank you. Thank you for what? For being here. That's okay. As I hear a deep breath, it's obviously Lily's gone to sleep. After closing my eyes, it doesn't take long for the slumber to take me as well. Did he just sleep sitting up? That is unfortunate. Hisao? Hisao, are you? The soft, barely audible voice lingering in my ears slowly wakes me. I wish I could be awoken like this more often. With a mumble, I slowly open my... Whoa! Ah! Taken by surprise at the face hovering curiously mere meters from mine, I make our heads collide with a harsh thud. The impact of our foreheads causes both of us to fall backwards and yelp in pain. Lily sounding more like a squeak toy than a person. I slowly rub my forehead with one hand, supporting myself with the other. Lily lies a few feet ahead, doing just the same, her face obviously pained. Sorry, your face was kinda close and I acted on reflex. You okay? My head... It seems she's not actually okay. Come to think of it, I doubt that the impact alone is what's causing her head so much pain. Hangover? You drank a fair bit last night. She silently nods in confirmation as I lever myself up. I offer a hand to her and help her back onto her feet. Glancing behind her, I find that Hanako's still fast asleep. It's not fair. I only drank as much as you did. That's very different from what I remember, and anyway, girls have a lower tolerance than men. That sounds fake. Is that... I don't think that's real. That doesn't help. I would think that she would have a higher tolerance because isn't she taller than he saw? So, like, the blood-alcohol level ratio? I don't know. Fine, I'll get you a glass of water. Just be careful not to trip over Hanako. I rub the sleep out of my eyes, or at least some of it, as I walk to the counter. Tending to someone with a hangover isn't the way I like to spend a morning. Sucks. It only takes a few seconds for the glass to fill, the clear water reflecting the sliver of light that makes it through the thin curtains. It looks like Lily's taken a seat on the side of the bed. I walk over to her while taking care to step over the peacefully sleeping Hanako and place the glass into her outstretched hands. Thank you. No problem. I take a seat next to her, the soft bed having a surprising amount of give. She drinks slowly and methodically. A long silence passes with only Hanako's soft breathing to be heard. With some measure of guilt, I look at Lily's face and attempt to read her expression. Her brow is furrowed, and she looks to be lost in thought. For a moment I hesitate, but eventually place a hand on her shoulder in an attempt to reassure her. I didn't expect her to flinch rather noticeably at that, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to... Lily quickly shakes her head in a manner somewhat more violent than usual for her. She takes a long breath and steady herself before letting her head sink. I must look terrible right now. I moved to protest, but quickly realized that it would be futile to do so. That said, I want her to open up more. If you want to talk about anything, I'm here. Lily gives a self-deprecating snort as if to mock her own emotions. There's just a lot happening right now. I'm sorry for being so strange recently, especially back when we were in town. Even now I'm a bit confused about everything. Believe me, I know how that feels. She smiles wistfully, resting a cheek on the backs of her fingers. We're a couple of broken young fools, aren't we? Come on, don't say that. Come graduation, we'll be out into the real world. The real world. Sometimes I surprise myself with the way I think about things. I guess the strange divorced feeling of Yamaku and the surrounding town compared to the outside world still hasn't become natural. Maybe it never will. It's strange in hindsight being so isolated from society like this doesn't feel as bad as it probably should. A wry grin on her face, Lily seems to share the same sense of amusement at the idea. Eventually, though, her smile drops. I'll be going back to Scotland for a week or two soon. Is that why we had to reschedule Hanako's birthday party? She gives an affirmative nod. You'll be able to see your family again at least. You're not looking forward to it? I haven't met my family in 6 years. I don't even know how to act around them anymore. Wait, what? My mouth hangs open as I try to process what she said. If she's 18, that means she'd have been only 12 when they left. I may have seen very little of my parents, what with them both working long hours, but that's... I feel utterly useless as I struggle to find some ways to respond. But why? Why did they leave, or why are they inviting Akira and me back? Both, I suppose. My father's business has its headquarters in Scotland, and an executive position became available for him there. In the end, he had to move permanently. My mother followed him, but Akira and I stayed in Japan for the sake of both Akira's job within the Japanese branch of my father's company and my education. As for the latter, one of my aunts is gravely sick. I'm sorry. Don't be. It feels strange, really. We're being summoned there for her, yet we've barely met before. I can't even remember the sound of her voice. Equally strange is the total lack of antipathy she feels towards her family for doing such a thing. I can't help feeling slightly humbled. That said, her wistful exterior is just hiding her emotions. Seeing her like this is depressing. Knowing what to do, I lift myself off the bed. Lily notices the bed's movements, her head perking up and her hand reaching sideways to feel where I was. Hisao? I walk over to my bag, still leaning against the wall, unbuckling the front flap and retrieving the opaque bag from within. I take the small plain box in my hands. Hold your hands out, Lily. She looks surprised for a moment, but eventually acquiesces. I'm amused by her look of curiosity when I place the music box into her open palms. Her typically delicate way of handling it makes it seem as if it were fragile enough to break if breathed on. She wordlessly brings it in front of her face, her slender fingers feeling out its contours and patterning. Eventually her fingers find the recessed lines between the lid and body of the box, and her thumb effortlessly pops open the lid. I don't know if that's the best for a hangover. I take a seat on the bed next to her, watching her face silently and intently. She sits completely motionless as she listens to the diminutive, tinny melody, her mouth just slightly open. Yeah, we need to turn that off. Them little ting-tings, is no way to have a hangover around. It takes a long while before she closes the lid with a small snap, bringing the curtain down on the miniature performance playing in her hands. The smile on her face, gentle and wistful, shows that I made the right decision. Think of it as a going-away present for your trip to Scotland. I will. A restless shuffling can be heard from the floor in front of us, the sound having woken Hanako. Can you guys please, shut up? I'm sleeping. She climbs out of the blankets I put over her, looking befuddled and wiping the sleep from her eyes. I see you're finally up.
What?
Hanako looks around the room with her eyes only half open, her mind far from being as awake as her body. Her dazed state makes me and Lilly chuckle. As Lilly gets off the bed and tends to Hanako, I take one last look around the room. I guess I'd better get going then. There'll be questions if I am seen leaving the girls' dormitories in the morning.
Goodbye, Hisao.
Oh, goodbye. I stand and walk to the door, picking up my somewhat lighter bag along the way. After I leave the room and enter the hallway, though, I hear Lily's footsteps behind me. What's wrong? Without a word, she strides up to me. I freeze as I feel her hand slide onto my cheek, seemingly every nerve taking in the feeling of her fingers and palm upon it. Immediately after, her face slowly moves next to mine, a light momentary touch of her lips brushing against my other cheek. For a moment, everything seems to stand still. I absent-mindedly bring my fingers to my cheek as if to try and recapture that fleeting feeling.
Aw, he got little cheek kiss. That's cute.
Lilly.
That's my thank you, Hisao.
Thank you.
For your present. Have a nice day in school.
I don't know how to feel about that. We take cheek kisses. And with that, she disappears behind her door and gently closes it, the muffled voices of her and Hanako audible through it, much as they were yesterday night. Brrr. I think I'd be hard-pressed not to have a nice day after that. I walk away with a certain spring to my step. I think there were some people around that glanced at me emerging from the girls' dormitory building, but I find it difficult to give a shit.
Alright, so we had a happy birthday. We got a little drinking, drunk, and we got a cheek kiss. And we got Lilly to open up to us, and we learned a little bit about her family history. Some of this stuff we kind of already knew, just because, again, Hanako's route. So it does seem that Hanako's route and Lily's route is very, it kind of follows the same sequence of events a little bit. We still do the birthday party, we still get drunk, and Lily still goes to see her aunt and stuff. So that is good. Well, it's good either way. But it just means that we're not learning a whole bunch new stuff yet. Anyway, Misha's yelling at us, and we'll figure out what she wants in the next video.